And we're back. Another offload delay podcast is here. In the forecast, we have two veteran medics today. We've got Randy, we've got Kenny. I've known these guys for years. I've been trying to get them on the podcast for quite a while. Today's show is about the veteran side of things, the senior staff, the seasoned vets, trying to talk about what they've seen, what they know, what they would recommend, and really what they don't know as well, I guess. Great bunch of guys here to share some of their stories. And I know we have a lot of interested folks out there wondering how they've done what they've done for so long. So I'm going to bring them in right now. First, we've got Kenny. And now we have Randy. Gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for joining. I know the audience couldn't see what we were dealing with a little bit before recording, and it was a true veteran experience of technology.
We're old and we suck at computers, pretty much. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's a general theme amongst Randy and myself.
Yeah, that's department.
That's right. It was comical. I wanted to record it, but we didn't. Anyone that's worked alongside us can figure out what the computer issues may have looked like if they've seen us work with anything technical on the trucks. But thanks for joining, guys. I want you to introduce yourself. First, we're going to start with Randy. Just kind of how long you've been doing it, level of care you're providing. We're in Southeast Ontario. That's basically what I'm going to say, and we'll go from there. So, Randy, welcome.
Okay. Hey, guys. Well, you can see my name on the bottom. I started in 1987, so next year is 35 years for me. And I'm an ALS provider. I was in the first Opals group, so I did my training in 1996. So I've been in ACP for 25 years, which is kind of surprising. Doesn't seem that long.
Randy, you've honestly worked longer than some of the people you've worked beside have been alive. And that's just a matter of fact point that we're at in our career. You more than myself. And in the middle, we have Kenny. I haven't called him Kenny for years. Everyone affectionately knows him as Snoop.
Well, not everyone, just the old people, eh?
Okay, well, our crew. So I'm going to have Kenny introduce yourself again, how long you've been doing it, and what capacity you're working in, and maybe even what got you interested in it all those years ago.
Well, first off, I actually don't have my teeth in. I put a toque on so that I didn't look too much like Brad. So there you go. But I will take my toque off, put my teeth in. And now I do look like Brad. I've been a paramedic since 1995, 5 years at the PCP level, and then I became an advanced care paramedic in the year 2000. And I've been working at that level ever since. So I guess I've been at the job 26 and a half years now. And I actually fell into it completely by accident. I went down to Toronto to visit a guy I'd grown up with, and he was a police officer. And I happened to be there the day of a funeral for a Toronto police officer who was shot and killed, Todd Bayless. And so could have been my buddy in that casket, could have been anyone, in terms of policing and such. And so I attended the funeral with my buddy and his wife, and like I said, I'd grown up with them. He's like an older brother and an older sister. And it was a really hot day in June, and all the police officers were standing at attention, waiting for the hearse to come by. And they started dropping like flies, just passing out in the heat. And so I turned to my buddy's wife, Jane, and I said, she's a nurse at Women's College Hospital. And I said, what's up with this ambulance stuff? Because prior to that day, I'd never thought of it as a career. I'd lifeguarded and taught swimming lessons, but I have a degree in political studies and really thought that my life might go towards like the law or, something like that, just that sort of thing. Government.
One aspect of the law anyway.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So anyhow, I mean, completely, just a complete left turn from what I kind of thought I was going to do. And so I asked Jane, I said, what's involved with this ambulance stuff? And she goes, as far as I know, it's 1 year at community college. So I came back to Kingston a couple of days later after having a bit of a rip in Toronto there and applied 6 weeks before school started. And the only place accepting applicants still was Centennial College. So I had to do an adult aptitude test and all this stuff in short order, and went down for an interview. And at the end of the interview, I just said to the guy, "Am I in the program or not?" Because I don't want to find out the day before school starts
Yeah.
that I have to move to Toronto.
And the rest
And he
is
told
history,
me-
bud.
Yeah, he told me on the spot, "You're in." And I said, "Here we go." So
You've
then-
become one of the legends in our area over those
Well, I don't
years,
know
and
about that. I mean,
lots
my
of
God.
people will be watching this that know you not only from your work capacity but from your social network that you formed in your home city there. And how about
Yeah.
you, Randy? What got you involved? Why did you ever go into this mysterious, weird world we're in?
It was like Kenny. It was completely by accident. I was playing hockey for St. Lawrence College in Brockville when I was in
I
nursing
think he
school.
means he sat on the bench, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But
I know. I was going to leave that detail out, but
oh
anyway,
no way, not here, bud.
I was in the gym, and a guy named Rick McLeish, who has retired from Brockville, we started chatting, whatever. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I told him I'm in nursing school. And he said, "You ever think of working on the ambulance?" I had no idea anything about it whatsoever. And at that point, you could work on the ambulance with your Class F, your CPR, and your first aid.
Unreal.
So, yeah. So he said, "Why don't you get those, and then we'll see if we can get you in." So I did that. I did 4 days because we were self-dispatched at the time. I did 4 days of dispatch, learning how to punch the little cards. And 1 day of riding out with Rick and Jeff Crawford, and that was it. I
Oh,
was on
geez.
the road.
Oh man,
1 day, yeah.
trial by fire. Eh?
Yeah.
No
Well, I
kidding.
didn't know enough to be scared, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think how we all started. We didn't know enough at the beginning, and the naive is being naive was a bonus for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to let everybody know who's watching this together. There's about 8 decades of ambulance experience on the screen or on the pod that you're listening to right
Thanks
now.
for reminding us, Brad.
Well, Randy weighs that quite heavily for us, right? He's got about 65 of them, so
Yeah.
we'll split the rest, Kenny.
Yeah.
I just think you guys have been
I
in
heard he might have been one of the disciples back in the day.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm not going to say which one. So we've all been in this for quite a while right now, and we've seen a lot of changes through your career, through our careers. Some good, some bad. What do you think, guys? What's kind of, if you had to highlight one of the best changes that you've seen, let some of the people that haven't been involved in it that long know kind of what was okay back in the day. What was okay and what's changed now, and how is it helping us or making things worse?
Let me go first.
Sure,
you
go ahead, Randy.
Randall.
I think bringing in of the symptom relief and the ALS care has been the greatest thing that ever happened to us.
So what do you mean by that, Randy? Before this, what were you doing for patients?
Bed oxygen blanket.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And as a student at Centennial for myself in the 1994-95 school year, it was only a 1-year program. It was exactly that. Like when I rode out in Toronto as a student downtown at 40 Station, my preceptors only had an oxygen bag and a first aid kit. Like we didn't have a defibrillator, we didn't have any medications, and Toronto had ALS at the time, but like you didn't always see them on every call. So you honestly were showing up and just position O2 transport, bed oxygen blanket, however you want to do it, pot or Bob.
So
the
Randy,
sorts of calls you did, right?
that obviously caught your attention because you became an advanced care medic, one of the first around in the Opals program, which was, for those who aren't aware, we're going to describe it as one of the first advanced care training programs outside of Toronto, right, in the province of Ontario, and you brought it back to the area that you work in now. So obviously that symptom relief was a start of further treatments, better treatments to come, and obviously a major advance in our field. So there's a good feature. What about you, Snoop? Kenny? What do you think in your career?
Honestly, I was actually going to say exactly what Randy said. The creation of the advanced care paramedic program across the province was absolutely instrumental in advancing the field. Also, I think the symptom relief for sure. Now, I really would like to see, and it's starting to happen, the widespread autonomous IV for PCPs.
Right.
Those sorts of advances. You just can't put a dollar value on how important they've been to the public and advancing our career.
We've all three of us have practiced at the advanced care level, and the autonomous IV thing is very rewarding for the primary cares, but it's also very helpful. I know I've worked with primary care, so you could also do IV starts for us advanced guys.
Absolutely. The
And
more they can give people, the better, right?
and it's a tremendous help to the flow of the call if they can also chip in and help the advanced level side a little more.
Absolutely.
I'm actually surprised that none of you mentioned this guy here, which is one of the most recent innovations that's been brought to our industry and that we often thank the taxpayers for. That there was one of our new power stretchers. And for anybody that didn't know, most of these guys worked for their entire careers with manual lift stretchers to different capacities. One of the originals for me and was this guy here. What did we call this, Randy? What was this?
This is the number 30 that you're showing here, right?
Right. So this number 30, a lot of medics on the road would never even have touched one of these or seen one of these back before they were gone, before they were hired. And what was the mechanism? How did these operate? Like what were?
Actually, I think, Brad, that's a 35A, isn't it? With the
It might be, yeah.
I thought it was a 30. I thought it was a 30 with the carriage, but either way, I was trying to show a 30 with the point I was trying to make was no matter what lift you did with the 30, whenever you had a patient on your stretcher, it always had the drop, right?
Yeah.
You had
All
the
the way to
drop.
the ground,
So
and
no
then
matter
they lift
the
up.
patient could be at the perfect height to load them in the truck, but those stretchers demanded you drop the carriage, you got the patient to the ground, and then you lifted the whole thing up collectively and loaded it in call after call after call. So those days are gone. You get this bad boy out there now, which is one like that's being used in many services across the province, and it's literally a battery powered setup where the battery will do the lift. It's like a scissor lift. There are weight capacities. Sometimes we got to assist even beyond the 600, 700, 800 pound capacities of these things.
Yeah, I think they have 750, something like that.
And we can add a little bit of oomph to get it over that 750, but it definitely, I think, is going to be a game changer for anybody in the profession now and trying kind of in the early or mid part of their career that are trying to get a few extra years out of this job. Because it is physically
a lot of people that lost their careers because of those 30s, like hurt.
And it was notorious, right? Paramedicine was notorious for being a career that ended not willingly. It was backs were blown, shoulders were blown.
I believe the old stat, Brad, was something around 4% of paramedics actually made it to retirement. And now that's changing with the creation of community paramedicine jobs and other sort of non-traditional paramedic roles that people are having the chance to do now. But yeah, back in the day, I mean, you honestly never saw too many guys make it to retirement.
And you're talking starting the job and finishing the job, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Beginning to end. So I'm not even in that number anymore. Like I only stayed part-time, and you guys are going to be some of those rare 4%ers by the looks of it that are going to retire. So kudos to you. I don't think some of the people that are working right now have any idea. It's hard for me to fathom what 35 years would even look like in this profession. One day is it
quick.
Well, I guess looking back it would, but one day at a time, it seems like such a slugfest that you don't know how you're going to survive all those. So let's talk about stressors. So there's a lot of things that drive these people to become those 96%, as you said, Kenny, that will leave, that are gone, that won't make retirement from being a brand new hire. And some of the major stressors we hear about and that the public perceives is kind of like the call types we do. Not only what we see, but for me personally, what we smell, what we feel, what we witness as far as emotionally around us. But now I think call volume has crept in. Call volume is becoming as much or more of a stressor for most medics across the country, from what I'm hearing, and probably beyond, as much as the call types we're doing. So any idea over the years, have you seen a change in call volume or a lack of increased support to help deal with call volume?
Well, I'll start by saying it's always been a busy field. We've always been busy, always. Back in the day, between emergency calls, you did a lot of interfacility transfers, right? So you'd pick someone up, say, at a hospital and return them to the nursing home, or pick them up at the nursing home to take them to their hospital appointment. Or you'd take someone who's discharged from hospital and take them home and literally carry them up the stairs into their house and put them to bed. And that was the call. And so, you're doing that in between all the emergency calls. Now we've offloaded a lot of those transfers to transfer companies, but we're still as busier because the emergency calls have just spiked,
Yeah.
and some of that's related to COVID. Some of that was happening well before COVID even came along. We are really too busy, and we don't have enough trucks, quite frankly. And
Right.
there's
What do
no
you
other way
think?
to put it.
What do you think, Randy? Is what's causing the? Is it an aging population? Is it a pandemic? Is it an opioid crisis? Is it all of the above? Like what's going on with these call volumes?
Definitely all the above, and the population of our areas too. Like when I started, city of Kingston was really like we had Kingston Township and we had a little bit of the East End, but
Right.
those areas have exploded with population, and a lot of people that have come from Toronto sold their house, come here down here to retire. So our
Right.
volumes are people that require our services are so high, but the
And I
amount of
think
vehicles, like Eddie said, compared to the volume that we have, they're just not matching up. We just haven't met the demand as it's increased.
And I think that's common across the country, especially in the urban centers. There's so much population growth right now, and all emergency services, not just the medics. There's not a proportional response to this growing population base
Well,
per
and
unit of vehicle.
to that point, Brad, I had a conversation probably 5 years ago or so, maybe a bit longer, to be quite honest, with an older emergency physician who's still working right now, and he drew a graph for me, and basically it was, he goes, "This is where we are," and it was like the population at the time we're dealing with, like people born in the mid 1920s to early 1930s. And he goes, "We haven't even hit the people that were born in 1945 and after." You know what I mean? So
Wow.
we can't even handle the call volume
Yeah.
associated with the elderly who were pre baby boom, And so we have this whole cohort of people born from 1945 to 1965 who,
Yeah.
are going to swamp
Here
us,
we
quite
and they
frankly.
know it's coming. And the frustrating part for me, and I'm sure you guys, is the proactive pre-planning isn't there. Like this, it doesn't just happen to get a new ambulance on the road. It's not an overnight decision. This takes a lot of time, a lot of finances, a lot of thought process, a lot of resources in general. And we should almost be like 5 years ahead of ourselves. We know it's coming. These people were born, they're there,
Yeah.
and the booms
Absolutely.
are coming, and everybody's living longer. We've come up with all these innovative technologies
With much more complicated medical histories,
that's
right?
right.
So they
Right.
require more treatment at hospital
Yet
for whatever's
another
bothering them
point,
that day.
another point I want to say is in all of that, we're still not essential. And this is a topic that could be an entire show. I've said it on some of my other podcasts. Like the public in general doesn't realize that in the province of Ontario, paramedics, ambulances are not an essential service.
Exactly.
And without that essential service designation, we lose a lot of pull. We lose a lot of power, and we lose a lot of ability to do things like grow and to secure funding and resources that would match communities similar to us around the world or around at least our own country. So that's something that you guys have worked your whole career as being a non-essential service member. You don't have the benefits of early retirement as per se police or fire. The magic number for us for those that don't know is 90 for most of us in these services. That means years of service and age. So even a 60-year-old needs 30 years service in, and he's still slugging these people around. And it's just something that needs to change.
Service too, right?
That's right.
Full-time service. A lot of people start out part-time, right?
And they're not accruing the same rate. Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of benefits for us as a profession to become essential. And there's a lot of negative parts from the political side and an employer side to having us be essential.
The one thing I'd like to say with regards to length of career in particular, it is a tough job physically and mentally, and I almost think that police, fire, ambulance, any of the emergency services, correctional workers, almost like the military, if you put 20 years in, you should be allowed to retire and move on. Like this goal to get your pension by hanging on by a thread till 35 or 40 years in or whatever it might take, it is really kind of antiquated, if you ask me. And we're working on a system that really isn't helpful to the people performing the job. There's a lot of impediments to making it to the end, and one of them is the fact that they force you in a physical and mentally demanding job to put in 35 years. You
And
know?
through the lengths of your professions, especially Brandy, you've been kind of switched around, downloading, uploading. The province is running it. It's private. And during those transitions, a lot of your pensions have been wiped out. They weren't transferable. We work with people that when the employer changed, they didn't acknowledge the fact that their pension from all their years before could be brought in and carried on. So they've lost those years of service, of the continuity of it. And it's
right.
you pay the price for that, as you said, Kenny, for having to work even longer, let alone get out at 20, 25 years, which is
Yeah.
still a heck of a good emergency service career,
Oh,
as far as I'm
absolutely.
concerned.
Yeah.
Then we run into issues unique to us, quite unique to paramedics compared to the other emergency crews, is that we, especially not all big services, but most of the province anyway, has part-time paramedics. This is it's so unique to this field. People don't realize time off is a huge issue for us. In order to get a day off as a full-time paramedic, you need to be approved. It doesn't matter, Randy, if you're 35 years in and you have time in the bank and you've got a day or a year owed to you. If there's no one to cover your ass in that seat, i.e. a part-timer to work for you, they deny you. So it doesn't matter how long you've been there. And that doesn't really match any of the other emergency departments that are out there, emergency services, where they can go down to a minimum level of staffing. They can go to a minimum platoon level. And all that time that they've actually earned is usable. And as you guys know, you get near the end of these years of service, you want the time off more than you want anything else.
Absolutely.
I think that
Absolutely.
and part-time is then leading to you guys being refused time off, and then it could potentially lead to needing some sick time. And Kenny, you had some thoughts pre-show about sick time and the way
Oh,
our
just
sick
yeah.
world
Well,
is.
it goes along. If you want me to follow up on that,
Yeah,
it goes along with the sort of what I just said about it's a mentally and physically demanding job at times. But you know, people might laugh at this, but I kind of view us as professional athletes, and we're only useful to the public and to the employer and such if we're physically and mentally prepared and capable to do the work. And you might be physically okay, but then maybe that day you're kind of struggling to figure out how to get there. And then other days, maybe mentally you feel great, you want to be there, but your body's letting you down. And there are very few people, I think, over the course of the years I've worked that actually abuse sick time. But there's an idea in the heads of the politicians, I think, more than anyone else, that we're just union people that are here to like collect the money and call in sick whenever the heck we want and stuff, right? And that's not the case. Like, I honestly, on one hand, I can count maybe some people that abuse sick time more so than they should.
you're right.
Uh, it needs to be there, and quite frankly, it needs to be used, because if you need to show up to work mentally and physically prepared to do whatever the job throws at you that day. And some days you feel like you could handle a busload of seizing babies, and it's like, no problem, bring it on.
Hmm.
And other days you don't even know if you can treat a fractured hip because you're not really necessarily feeling on, right?
And I
And
know
and so
I had the displeasure more than once from hearing from senior HR levels that that's the job I signed up for, and I should just be able to suck it up and deal with it. And I'm sorry. I see Randy smirking too. I'm sure he's heard it. Where we're only human, and some days, yeah, I don't have a cold. I don't have an infectious flu, but I just feel like shit from a call that I did, or shifts that I've done, or never not getting proper meals for 4 shifts in a
or
row.
you just feel worn down.
Right.
Like there's nothing
And
particular that's put you
How
there.
many
It's
other
just that.
jobs? How many other jobs do you hear people say? Well, I got to work at 8 o'clock this morning, and yeah, about 3:30, I finally got a break so I could get something to eat, or
exactly.
use the bathroom or whatever. Like, it just doesn't happen, and people don't understand that we go through that every single day. I mean, we try to
Every
get our breaks, but we just don't have the amount of resources to cover us off to get. The call volume is just too high for the amount of resources we have, so we can't get a
exactly.
break.
And we're
We're
never
trying to.
off on time. We're never
And
off.
it
Like
honestly doesn't matter. I was just gonna say, it doesn't matter where you perform our work. Like, people are getting chronic overtime. People are not
yeah,
getting a chance to eat. Go to the bathroom, that sort of thing. This is a
You watch,
problem across the entire country. As you
that's
said
yeah,
right.
earlier, Brad,
watch
maybe
any
even across the
paramedic
world.
show on TV. Any paramedic show on TV will show you that the job is exactly the same anywhere. That people are
Yeah.
just overworked and we just need more resources. But it could
But
go
it's
right
not
back.
like those real shows on mainstream TV where we're running into burning buildings and we're all like saving
Oh God,
bridges
no.
like that. That's not the issue. But what you're talking
No.
about is any real news outlets or shows, right? The job is the job.
Yeah.
You
Well,
get in your
and going
truck, you
to
go get people, and you hopefully bring them to the hospital in a better condition than you found them in, or at least the same.
exactly.
That's the
No,
goal.
I was going to say to your point, Brad, about the overtime, like the shift I currently work, in the month of November, I had overtime, I think 80% of my shifts.
Unbelievable.
So I worked my overtime bank down to about an hour and a half left in it because I'd rather take the time off than the money, as you pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
So I'd worked my bank down to about an hour and a half, and I think the other day when I was at work, it was at like 26 hours, and that was all from the month of November, right? So you're getting
Unbelievable.
2 hours overtime, getting home by like 10:30 at night, and then you got to get up and do it again the next day. You got to get up at 6:30. But in the meantime, you still have to make your lunch for the next day and do all the stuff
Right.
that you sort of have to do to get ready for a shift, and it's exhausting, right?
And I know it's tough to run a family or have a family revolve around our schedules. Over the years, they end up just giving up, right? Like once you're at work, they know they can't rely on you to be at this event after work or to go to see this play or this concert or be with this person. It just doesn't happen. So
And honestly,
that wears on
my
you too.
wife's a shift worker, so we basically just do our shifts and kind of get together when we can and do whatever family events we can based on our schedules. But it is a tough one because a lot of family members don't fully comprehend the shift work lifestyle. So it's like, why can't you be here Christmas Day? Well, no, I'm working.
So there can be a physical, there can be a lot of health tolls. This job can play havoc with our own health, physically and mentally. It's no secret out there that there's some physical tolls of this job. And Randy, you've been off more than once in your career with an ailment, an injury, work related, not work related, but primarily work related. And we deal with communicable diseases. We deal with poor diet, as you've alluded to. Like we're not eating all day and then we finally eat at 3:00 in the afternoon and we're eating on our lap and you're hurrying up because you're behind paperwork. So you're trying to do the paperwork while you're actually eating. That can't lead to anything positive for any of us. People don't realize it's not just pulling our back or straining our shoulder. Speaking of which, we got Kenny's broken right now as well, physically. This job is just, it takes a toll and they're trying to do better with some of the equipment. But you're dealing with some very personal moments right now, Randy. And I think people need to realize that on top of providing service, you were fighting some pretty significant battles behind the scenes. Is there anything that you can expand on with that?
Yeah, it started before 2020, but I was feeling kind of unwell. And then when the whole COVID thing came around, I went to the hospital a couple times to see because I was getting short of breath and stuff, which was a symptom of COVID and weakness, etc. And I went in 3 times, I guess. And the third time, Dr. Graham took my blood work as well, just to see if there's anything wrong. And she came back and she said, "You don't have COVID, but your hemoglobin is 93, which means for all you medical people out there that I was bleeding somewhere or not producing red blood cells. And my white blood cell count was normal. So this is a picture of me going into my second surgery. So long story short, I had a bunch of tests and I was told I had bowel cancer. So I ended up having surgery for that. So part of my large bowel disappeared. And then when I did my 1 year checkup, they came back and said, by the way, we found a different one. And it's a completely different kind of cancer, also in my bowel. And so I had that one taken out. And now I'm on chemotherapy and I have to take it every day for 3 years. So on top of that, so I've been trying to deal with that. And eventually they say I'll get back to it. Look
at those abs. Jesus, you've been doing sit-ups, eh?
They had to poke through those abs with a sharp scalpel, I'm guessing. No, but this is part of your procedures, right? So on top of your many years of serving the public, you then get the treat, as many people do. Unfortunately, cancer's rampant in our communities. But you're dealing with all of this as we're dealing with a pandemic, as we're dealing with personal stresses of the job as you're trying to figure out your own retirement, the best way there. So people that know you out there are going to be quite, I was kind of blown away by these pictures. I didn't realize you had kind of gone that far down the path of illness. They told you they cut out, what's that?
That what you're looking at right there is when I had to have an iron infusion before my first surgery. So it looks like it's Guinness going into my arm.
Yeah, Kenny's excited. He thought it was Guinness.
By the way, folks, that's what it normally is. Shout out to the pilot house. There we go.
And then obviously, usually we're on the other end. Sorry, Snoop, I'm kind of blocking you out with these pictures, but we're usually on the other end. Anybody that's only listening to this podcast right now, we have a whole bank of IV infusion pumps. And as medics, Randy, over the years, we've been responsible for actually moving those pumps to our stretchers and moving the patients that are all hooked up to this stuff. Yeah. And now it's your turn to sit there. And I can't believe the number. I think I'm counting 5 bags of drip bags there, maybe 4.
That was the last time I went in, which was about a month and a half ago. Yeah, maybe even a couple months ago. The chemo that I was on drove my white blood cells down to essentially 0. And I ended up with an infection of some kind, which is febrile neutropenia. So my neutrophils were at 0, so which meant I couldn't fight off an infection. So I ended up going to KGH for a week and being in isolation and all the antibiotics and all the other stuff you saw in the pumps.
Unreal.
I like to say this has been about a 1.5-year journey now. And the staff that I had to deal with, like at KGH, and all the testing that I had to do were absolutely remarkable.
Good. It's so good to hear.
Yeah, the system worked like a charm. Everybody's so nice, and the cancer center people are wonderful. So,
and I'm hearing this from non-responders as well. I had a guest on recently, a few pods ago, who had suffered a blood clot emergency, nothing vaccine related, but during the pandemic, and then they were discussing their trials and tribulations of emergency services when your family can't get involved in a pandemic. But they had a lot of very good things to say about the system once you're inside, and the specialists are allowed to do what they're doing, and they're working hard, and they're trying to, no matter if we're responders or not, they're trying to get us all back on the right side and keep things stable. So we're glad you're on the mend. I was asking you earlier, Randy, you're on the right side of things. Turn the corner.
After that last bout there, they decreased my dosage of chemotherapy, so it does have some side effects. One of them is periorbital edema. So my face feels like it's blowing up on me. So I may even have to get glasses like Snoop one of these days. So.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm hiding those from the old camera today,
But obviously, this job, it's all about, they teach us to keep ourselves fit. They teach us to keep ourselves nutritiously, proper nutrition, physically fit, mentally fit. But we just run out of time. Certain days you come home after a 20-hour shift, or you've been out the door 20 hours. You're not going to come home and work out and make a proper meal. Kenny, you actually have some very good...
I've had some good culinary experiences over the years that I've made for myself.
I know a lot, like the fire department, who is not very well off with their food skills. You're very similar to them with certain nutritional... I scanned your Twitter and I found this package of Red Hot.
It's a solid breakfast on occasion. Just microwave those babies up, slap some mustard on them, hot sauce, you're good to go.
So we're talking breakfast, or they're any?
Well, that was breakfast one day for sure.
But then so was this, right?
Actually, years ago, I was working with Ross Brown, and he dared me to go to the Healthy Habit and get 12 sausages for breakfast. And I did. Then thank God we didn't do too many calls the rest of the day, because I spent the whole afternoon in the shitter.
And Ross Brown again. Legendary veteran. Yep. He got out after many years as well. Because of a back problem. That's right. But he ended up making it to retirement, although he entered retirement quite hobbled, which was sad. Yeah. Then Kenny, you posted this breakfast item.
Well, you can only eat those cold out of the can.
Yeah.
If you heat those up, you're weak.
So you've gone through a whole day of mental anguish.
That's my. I put that food in my locker in case I don't have time to make something, like you pointed out, after a long shift. I keep spare food in my locker, and every once in a while you got to go with the zoodles. Cold though.
Not Alphagettis. Alphagettis or zoodles?
Zoodles is better. Oh, way better.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. If you wanted to have a taste comparison, we could do it, but zoodles will win every time.
I love it. But if you're not keeping yourself fit, you're not keeping yourself healthy, there's no way you can look this good.
Oh man, yeah. I didn't
There
pull that
is the
baby out
man.
too
That is
often.
anybody not watching but listening. There's a picture of Kenny in his dress uniform, and I've known Kenny for almost 20 years now, and I have never seen him wear any
I've
such
only worn
attire.
that baby twice. I wore it when I received the Exemplary Service Medal, which was a very nice honor to receive. Actually, after receiving that, I kind of thought, well, that could be my career in ambulance. It's a physical representation of having performed the job for more than 20 years, and it was a recognition by the Governor General. And I know Randy's earned that as well. It's a tough one to get, and it's a nice one to get. But yeah, I've only worn that uniform twice. That picture was taken on Remembrance Day this year. I had the special honor of laying the wreath at the cenotaph. So I
Excellent.
thought that was quite nice.
It's a great post on your social, and I remember seeing it, and I didn't recognize you. So
Yeah, I
luckily, it
didn't
was under
recognize
your
myself
account, and you
there.
said it was you, and you explained what you were doing. It was a very noble
My
reason
teeth were
to.
in, and I had a suit on, so I didn't recognize myself either.
So, how do you guys cope then? Coping mechanisms are a big one for people getting into this field, people that are in it, people that are outside of this industry that go, how the heck do you guys cope? And on a serious note, a bunch of us rely on
Oh, I got
animals.
low battery, Brad. Hold on, bud.
Okay. All right.
I gotta do
We're going to
some
switch
technical
Kenny
stuff.
out here. I'm going to kick him out for a second. And Randy, you and I are going to talk about coping and some similarities that we have. You're an outdoors guy. You love to get away. It's very common with a bunch of us to seek the outdoor life. I live remotely, more remote than I ever have now. And you enjoy the cottage life. And this is you getting away with your dog. Your dog's name,
That's Bella.
Bella, and your
He loves
boat.
the boat.
Yeah, and this to me, it looks like your refuge here, and it's very
It is.
common.
I was lucky about 10 years ago that another friend of mine who used to be in EMS, Tim Wright, had a place on this lake, and he suggested I come look at something, and I did. And 10 years ago, we bought this little cottage up north of Kingston. And so, yeah, we're there a lot.
That's
And the
good.
fishing and
And you mentioned Bella,
yeah, so
and
Bella's my buddy.
this is a fantastic picture. I love this one you sent me.
Yeah.
Bella in the chair. But there's a commonality with us responders, and it seems to be that we all rely on dogs, or at least pets to some capacity,
Yeah.
for our own mental sanity. And these aren't necessarily therapy dogs. Mine isn't a registered therapy dog, but it sure as heck she does give me a lot of therapeutic benefit. And sometimes in our world, I know, guys, you're the same. You just want to be around nobody. You don't.
Yeah.
You've been around people a lot, and you've been around people in crisis, and you've been around people in the worst situations you can imagine. So sometimes it's nice to just come home and be greeted by this, right?
Yep.
Bella there, and there's a special bond between responders and their animals. And Kenny, you were. Can you hear me? You're back now. You got the phone going. Oh, I lost sound, Kenny. Can't hear him. So can't hear Kenny right now. And we're gonna try to click the volume button if he can hear us. I think he
What
can.
about now?
Yeah, you're good. See, this is ideal. This is the life of experienced paramedics trying to use technology.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, it's total half-wit. Like when I have the computer at work and I have a problem, I hand it to a young person, and I haven't even actually physically handed the computer over, and they fixed it and handed it back and called me dumb. Because I really don't know what I'm doing.
You figured it out. We got her going. We were just talking about pets, and I know over the years, Kenny, you've had some really good dogs, and I'm not going to try and trigger any memories of that. But you're a dog person. But you've switched teams, bud, and I don't mean
so
the way people may
just
think.
Like to say from the outset, I love all animals, always have. I'm actually a big suck when it comes to that sort of thing. When I was a single guy, I had 2 cats, Bruce and Petrie. I won the custody battle with my ex-girlfriend to keep Petrie, so that was good. But then after the cats disappeared, my wife came along. They didn't disappear because of her. They stuck around for a bit. We had a boxer by the name of Marvin. And then Marvin was with us for 8 years. And prior to Marvin's death, we adopted a dog from Louisville, Kentucky by the name of Lena. Now, Lena was a special dog because she only liked a few people, and she was great for us, but she was not great for strangers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we lost Lena a little over a year ago, and my wife and I, we were petless from November 4th till about February 2nd of this year, when we adopted. No, there's Chicken Nugget. There's my Nuggie.
Chicken Nugget. You gotta love that
Yeah,
name.
he got that
Yeah.
name because the feral rescue group that saved him from some barn somewhere put Chicken Nugget in a trap, and he was the only cat that went for the Chicken Nugget, so that's how he got his name. And then we have another. Oh, there he is. Look at that. So he's gonna get a lion cut in about 3 or 4 months once it gets a little warmer, because he gets a lot of shit hanging from his hair and his ass. He drags it around the house, and every once in a while you find a fucking chocolate bar out there. They didn't know it was there.
But that's a mane on that, you know. Which one is this? Which one is this?
That's Chicken Nugget, and that's Grant. That's Grant Fisherman.
That's an amazing picture. I like that.
Yeah,
so you become a cat guy.
They're like dogs, actually. They play fetch, and they just hang out with you. They're great.
And then
there's Grant.
Yeah, unbelievable, Kenny. I never pictured you to be a cat guy, but I only knew you as a dog guy. I remember meeting the boxer and your rescue dog, and then when the cats came on the scene, and you're just an advocate for those. But I think it's important to note that that's a very common trend with all of us responders, no matter what field we're in, is we love our pets, we love our animals.
Your animal doesn't give a shit what you did that day, right?
Yeah.
And so to give you an example, like for Marvin, for instance, he was totally a therapy dog for me and my wife, and so was Lena. But I did a call one time that, honestly, I don't need to get into details because it would probably make people, call their own therapist. But I came home, and before I came in the house, I actually had to go to the garden hose to hose my boots down from all the blood that was on them.
Yeah.
And then I came in the house, and Marvin's just there shaking his ass, he's just all happy. He didn't care that, I just done a horrific call, and
it's unconditional too, right?
I could come home to, right?
Unconditional.
It's unconditional.
Yeah, and they don't have a memory that's like a time-sensitive memory. They don't know if you've been gone in 10 minutes or 10 hours. They kind of just grab you the same way every time you're home, and there's no feeling like coming home to an animal that's happy to see you.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So you guys have reached a point in your career now where a lot of staff are starting to, like it or not, guys, look up to you. And both of you have tremendous reputations in your line of work, not only for the skills that you bring to the job. I definitely, while I was training, I was looking up to you guys. We talked, Randy. I remember the day became advanced care. You and I were golfing, and you said, "Are you ready?" And that was about it. And you basically said, "It's happening," and are you ready? And just to have your approval and your kind of support meant a lot. And I'm going to personally thank you guys for that. It's both ways. I've worked with both of you many times, and we've had a lot of good shifts. But a lot of these other staff now that are around us right now look up to you, and they should. But I think it's important, though, for them to realize that you were once new as well. And do you remember being new, Randy? Do you remember those days? And how would you describe being new in this line of work, where basically a pager goes off or a tone goes off, and you're out the door not knowing what you're finding, and you're the new guy?
Yeah, I kind of felt bad. Well, I kind of alluded to how I started. So when I look back at it, I feel bad for the people I had to work with, because I didn't even know where the equipment was. So when somebody like Rick asked me to go get the, bindle winder, I didn't even know. I had to have to ask him where it was, and just trying to put on splints and all that kind of stuff. So, but I had some really good people help me out, like Steve Pinkney and guys like that showed me around and showed me how the stuff worked. But I remember just trying to learn it and making lots of mistakes and thinking, oh, shit, I better not do that again. And, and I still do that. I still learn that way. It's like, that didn't work out.
I agree. And I think a key to a new person anywhere, and I don't know, Kenny, if you agree, is it's okay to make mistakes, but admit that you've made them and realize
Absolutely.
that you're not perfect, right?
That holds true for all of us, though, right? I mean, none of us are going to be perfect at the job, even though you try your best to be, right? I mean, that's where a lot of the pressure from the job comes. People are relying on you to show up and make great decisions that benefits their care. And
Right.
so really, realistically, that is where you put the pressure on yourself to perform, right? Because you have a real privilege to be able to come into someone's house and help them out in their time of need. And that might sound kind of cheesy, but it's actually true, right? And so, like it's really important to put your best foot forward, work your ass off every call. But if you make a mistake, recognize it, learn from it, and move forward with that knowledge and impart it on other people, right? So that they don't necessarily make the same mistake that you did.
So I want you guys to give one word of advice to new hires, to newbies, the real new ones that are just getting their foot in the door, that are looking up to you guys going, man, how do these guys know all of this stuff and do it so well? And they're so comfortable. Because quite often, I'll admit, they're not going to ask you personally. They're going to wonder, like, what's one thing you would like to impart on these individuals?
I would say what Kenny just said is that we all make mistakes, and you have to learn from those mistakes. And when my son is in the paramedic program, and he's asking me about why do I have to learn this and this and this if it's not going to apply to my job, and I tell him it is going to apply. You just don't understand that it applies yet, because the
Right.
more that you know, the more you're going to understand what you're doing. And when you make a mistake, you're going to know you made a mistake, and just learn from it and understand why you made it, and then don't do it
Good.
again.
Kenny, it's a good piece of advice,
From
right?
my point of view, obviously, I would like to say that just try hard, right? So there's nothing more frustrating to me than you see someone who isn't like really working at it. So they've asked enough questions to, in their mind, they've settled it. This is what it is. I've asked the 5 questions that got me the answer I wanted, and I'm going to run with that. And I'm always like, people can say whatever they want about me, quite frankly. Like they could knock me for how I behave at the base, or the fact I might not wash every truck or mop the floor. But if someone ever criticized me for my effort on a call, I would take real umbrage at that, because every day, every call, you work hard, and you should always work hard, no matter how you're feeling.
I agree.
Even if like you might be frustrated with your job, you might be tired, maybe you have a problem at home, whatever. The patient should never know that you're having those sorts of thoughts, right? They shouldn't know that you haven't eaten in 4 hours. If they ask me, I'll say, yeah, I haven't eaten, but I'm not
Right.
going to ever volunteer to them that, oh, I'm pissed off because I haven't eaten in 4 hours and
Yeah.
I've had to take a piss for the last 3 hours. They should never know that. And,
It's not their fault. It's not their
it's
fault.
not their fault, and people should just work hard at doing the job well, and also like making the patient feel comfortable. I know people do that, but and there's other ways to do it as well. And the one thing that also drives me nuts, not just like say a lack of effort perhaps at times you see from some people, it's the fact that some people actually don't spend a lot of time talking to their patients, right? So you might ask all the questions to get you to a certain point in the call where you're reasonably convinced that you know what's going on and you're going to go down this road of treatment, blah blah blah. But so you start that and you get going to the hospital, and then you see a lot of people pick up a tablet, the computer, and start doing the paperwork. Well, you've got someone sitting in front of you who might be 95 years old and completely cogent, and they want to talk, and you have living history right in front of
I
you.
agree.
And part of your assessments are ongoing. So like you're having a conversation with someone. It might not seem like you're actually doing your job, you're just having a chat. But in fact, you are doing your job, because you're constantly reevaluating through the conversation their answers. Do they have a great memory? Do they remember what happened yesterday, last week, 75 years ago when they're in World War II, right? Like,
And it's a very rewarding
I
part
wish
of
I
the
saw
job
them
that
with
they're
that.
missing, right? It's a very rewarding part. It's rewarding, that part of the job.
Absolutely.
And they're missing out on a lot
Absolutely.
of it. Like when you look back at some of your job satisfaction, I know me personally, it's all of these unique individuals that you've actually had a 10-minute moment to have a little glimpse in their life. Some people you wish you could throw it away.
Aside along
Yeah.
that line?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're at a nursing home in town, and honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it was a really easy call. It was a transfer, essentially. The older guy had fallen out of bed, cut his leg. It really wasn't hurt, just needed dressing and transport for some stitches. And so I'm just looking around the room, and I see this World War II photo on the wall above his bed, and it's a guy standing right at attention. and he's getting metal pinned on his chest. And I said, "Is that you in the photo?" He goes, "Yep." And I said, "Who's that with you?" He goes, "King George VI." And if the fucking royal photographer had taken the picture from a different angle, the whole royal family would have been in the photo. I was like, all these years later, you're still pissed that the photo was taken at the wrong angle, so we didn't get like all of them in there. And then later in that call, so I talked to him and I asked him what the medal was, and he said it was the Distinguished Flying Cross. And then we got more into a little bit more of what had happened, and then he looked at me and he goes, "You know what? Let's not open that hangar door tonight anymore." So he just he was talking, and then he was like, "You'd had enough." But what a line! Let's not open that hangar door tonight.
Perfect. And I've tried to. Both of you have had students, many students. You've been preceptors, and you've kind of contributed back to the profession that way. Which anybody who's not familiar with our world, that's a one-on-one, one student with one crew for 480 hours or more on the truck, every call with these guys doing the call. And I've been a preceptor as well. And I always try to instill that it's hard to remember it, but it's a privilege that they're letting us in their house to help them when it's their worst time. Like, it's really a privilege, like that they are saying, "We trust you." And it's easy to get frustrated with all the fluff that's out there and all these kind of distracting calls. But when it comes down to it, if you can remember that and you can just show that appreciation, I think it does what you say, Kenny. It just lets you pay attention a little more and listen a little more and have that human interaction a little more. That really, of all the perks of our jobs, that human interaction is unbeatable.
Well,
one-on-one in the back.
So many people think our job, and I'm sure Randy will agree with me here, and you will as well, Brad, but so many people think our job is like, slamming in that IV, intubating that person, defibrillating someone, all this, that, and the other thing. That's such a small fraction of our job as to almost be inconsequential compared to what we do truly day in and day out, which is actually rock up on to someone's house and just have a chat. Like, really, that's what our job is. And if you're able to implement treatment and provide some extra stuff on the way, of course, that's always going to happen and be great. But really, like 98% of the time, we're having a chat with someone, gathering information and passing it on to the hospital so that they can pick up the ball and continue from there with the appropriate treatments,
So
it's very easy for us to look at a situation and say, why didn't you just go to your family doctor? But a lot of people don't understand the system, right? So a lot of times we're the first person they see in the system. So we have to do all that assessment as well as guide them in the way, like, yes, you need to go to emerge, or urgent care is quieter, or whatever the situation happens to be.
Oh, when they say we're patient advocates, it's not just on their health. It's basically guiding them through this whole process of being an advocate for whatever level they may or may not need from this point on. And I think.
Sorry, one of the cats wants in.
All right, bring it. Which one, Kenny? Is that chicken nugget coming in?
No, it's Grant.
Okay. All right. So we've touched on a lot of things, and we've been almost an hour here. But I need to know: is there one call? Is there one call, guys, that in all the years just still makes you laugh, or still makes you just shake your head in amazement, or one that you've told over and over? Before we go here, I just people are curious, and this is what they're curious about. They're like, you've seen some shit. You've dealt with a lot of calls. We don't even know if you've tried to tally how many thousands of calls we've attended to over the years. So, Randy, is there anyone in particular?
There is. I've had more laughs on calls than I've had, tearful moments. But I think one of the funniest things I ever saw was when Rick McLeish was talking to a patient and doing an interview, like, what's his name, Jolson, and he was going, "So, Mammy, how are you feeling?" And I could not stop laughing, and he wouldn't stop doing it. And I was brand new, and I was trying to be professional. And he was doing this, and she was loving it, and I was laughing so hard. Obviously, she wasn't sick, but my God, it was funny.
But it's true. I mean, it's how we cope, right? That we have a different sense of humor at times. That's for sure. We're known to cope that way. And what about you, Kenny? Anything?
Well,
even
before
amazing.
I give my answer, I want to ask Randy. Remember that call we did where the guy had just gotten out of prison, and his girlfriend called you a bitch or something? Right? She was swearing at us. Then by the end of the call, we saved his life, and she was hugging you. Thought you were the best man on the planet, and I was still an asshole for some reason. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I've done nothing wrong. I've not said a word to her. You dealt with her the whole time, and she hated you at first, and she loved you. She still hated me.
Oh man, and there's so many of those, and I know personally, and I have less years on than either of you. I even forget some of these calls. Like there's stuff that until you start talking about it, you're like, oh yeah, you remember that call? Or oh yeah, you remember that call? So I'm sure they're in there. But Kenny, is there anything that's absolutely cracked you up or made you amazed or just baffled?
People will swear I made this up. But I was working with a girl by the name of Lindsay Mellon. Lindsay Muige now. She works in Ottawa at the present time and part-time for where I currently work. Anyhow, we were sent out to a gentleman who'd had a seizure and continued to have seizures. And so we got out to the house, and he's sitting on the couch, and his heart rate's like 120, whatever it was, atrial fibrillation. And we're having a chat, just like I said, you do, we're chatting away, and all of a sudden he's like, I don't feel so good. And I look at the monitor, and his heart rate went from like 120 to 80 to 70 to 40 to 20. And I'm like, oh boy. So we fire up the old pacing, and so now he's alert and he's getting paced. And for those of you out there who don't understand transcutaneous pacing, but you put the big pads on with the monitoring leads, and you deliver an impulse to the chest that then stimulates the heart to beat, and you can decide with the rate and so on and so forth. So I got him his heart rate beating at like 80 beats a minute, whatever, and had good capture, blah, blah, blah. Everything's going well, but it's painful. It's very painful. And his wife was really getting mad at me, and she was starting to get in the way of us being able to perform the job. And because things had happened so quickly, I hadn't gotten any pain medication into the guy because, what's your choice? Like make him feel comfortable, or he's dead, right? So you fix the problem, then treated the pain. Anyhow, I was trying to do this, and his wife's getting upset, and she's like, you're hurting him. And I tried to explain again and again, no, we're not, we have to do this. And then she really got upset. And so finally I kind of said, listen, if I don't do what I'm doing, you might as well book a room in that funeral home at the corner. I've got to do what I'm doing. And so in between him getting this, he goes, don't do that. They're too expensive. You can't even make it up, right? I was like, and so I just started laughing.
To still have a sense of humor at this moment where you're actually providing his heartbeat with your own electrical signal, right? Yeah. Unbelievable.
He was like, don't do that. They're too expensive. But anyways, it was
a lot of the stuff you can't make up.
Had a good outcome and everything else, but
you literally can't make it up with the stuff we see, the stuff we do, right?
Is this really happening? Like he's talking to me.
Oh yeah. And I know Lindsay and Randy knows Lindsay, and I can only imagine the discussion after that call with you guys. But I kind of always wrap up with 3 questions to my guests, and we could talk for a long time about this illustrious careers of yours, and hopefully we'll have you back on in some capacity. And I know the listeners are going to be more than thankful for you bringing your stories on. But to get to know you a little better, I need to kind of ask you, we'll start with Randy. If you could be a fly on a wall anywhere, any situation, what would it be? Who would you want to listen in on, or what would you want to see, or what would you want to be a part of?
Well, I have heard that question before, Brad, and I don't know. A lot of people know that I play music and stuff, and it's one of my greatest distractions. And I think the place I'd like to be on the wall would be backstage at Woodstock in 1969.
Nice. Yes, I imagine it would be full of epic.
You might not have many memories, though, eh, Randall?
Probably not.
You'd be a fly.
You kind of got planted there, and that was it.
Might not have made it to the 70s, but it would have been fun.
And I must say, kudos to you. You are a talented musician, and you're a man of many skills, for sure. And I know that you played for our colleague when we were paying tribute to someone who we lost recently, and you guys did an amazing job there. And Kenny, Who is it for you? I can only imagine who's it's going to be.
Well, you know what? It's as they say on Overdrive. It's like the recency bias. But right now, I would like to be a fly on the wall when Mercedes is speaking with the FIA and the F1 people there.
With the Hamilton
because
stuff
Lewis
here?
Hamilton got fucked last weekend.
Right.
And I'm here for Lewis. He should be the F1 champ 8 times. I recognize him as that. And Max Verstappen will have his day. But I'd like to see how those negotiations went between Mercedes and the FIA.
It'd be interesting to see the big money arguments, wouldn't it? With all this power and rank and pull. But I agree with you. I was following that and the shenanigans that ensued. And for those people that don't know, we're talking F1 racing. It was a championship.
Years, and I've never seen anything that terrible.
Yeah.
That was just wrong.
Okay, so the next one's a little easier. Kenny, I'll start with you this time. And it mainly stems from this picture right here. If you can't see it, this is like a delicioso or some sort of frozen pizza that you've actually supplemented with 2 Kraft-looking cheese slices. It's just a horrendous-looking piece of food.
That, what I was doing that night is now considered legal in Canada. And I was hungry.
You called it epic.
I needed some extra cheese on that, baby. And I fired up the old processed cheese slices there, and I thought it looked pretty good.
Your post on your social media was so proud.
Restaurant presentation there, but she's pretty good.
I couldn't believe how proud you were on the social media for the culinary excellence that you developed there with the cheese slices. So that being said, whether it's this or not, you're allowed one food item the rest of your life. What is it? You can have one thing.
For me, I would have red or green curry Thai the rest of my life.
Chicken, beef, pork, whatever, like goat, whatever. Yeah.
Green or red curry chicken. Yep.
Nice. Good for you. And is green, which I've had both, but is one hotter than the other? I don't remember.
Green's a little hotter, I think. Yeah. Generally recognized.
Good for you. All right. And Randy, what's your food of choice for the rest of your life?
I'd say vegetarian pizza. Lots of hot peppers on it.
With cheese? With this?
No cheese slices.
Can we add a few Kraft cheese?
Look at the olives on that too. Look at the olives.
Well, it looks good. It looks pretty tasty.
So vegetarian pizza. Are you a vegetarian or just particularly like that with your pizza?
I just happen to like that. I don't really eat a lot of processed meat and stuff, so
right.
I like pepperoni and stuff. So
all right.
Yeah, I just like it. Lots of garlic and onions and hot peppers. So that would be.
Pizza's so handy too because it can be cold breakfast. It can be thrown in your lunchbox, especially vegetarian one. You can let it sit a little longer. You're not as worried, but
that's right. You can leave it on the counter.
Yeah.
Cold
all right, so Randy,
pizza with pale beside cold zoodles, though, bud.
Yeah.
If I could put that one every time.
This here though, okay, it's the napkin beside it that's the extra appealing picture on the used zoodle napkin.
You know what's
the
funny,
still
lads? I had a T-shirt on and I sat down in preparation for this and I realized, oh fuck, there's a stain on it. So then I got another T-shirt. It had a stain on it too. So then Randy and I, like I say, we're like high school kids here. What are you wearing?
Yeah.
And
both of you should show the shirts.
Maple Leaf jerseys on here.
And who's on the back, Kenny?
Jeff O'Neill special, right from the Europe pub
the O-Dog.
downtown Toronto.
Randy's got staging.
Yeah. What's that?
In case everybody wasn't aware of how old you guys were, Randy's got staging and you have O'Neill.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's and it's a Leaf.
Pretty much solidified it there, didn't it?
If I have to, if it's offending any viewers, I'll just edit those logos out later. But I think we're good right now, guys.
You know what I get a big kick out of when I walk through the mall? I'm that asshole that walks up to someone with a Habs shirt on or hat on, and I say, "You got something on your hat or your shirt?" Then they look, they're like, "Oh fuck!" Like,
all in fun. And you guys are big hockey players too, right? We're all kind of the old men's league.
Oh yeah.
We're not very good, but we'll get out there.
We've had some fun. So Randy.
Yep.
This will be interesting. You've got the most years out of all of us. May or may not be work related. What's the smelliest place you've ever been in? Or the smelliest place you've ever been?
Well, as we've all experienced, anything that is dead and rotting is not a good smell. But one particular one, I remember going to an event like that, and we went into the building, and some of your colleagues, Brad, were there ahead of us, and they ran in and ran out just as fast as they ran in. And we went in, and there was an individual somewhere in the bathroom who was dead, but he was cooking a turkey. And this was 3 or 4 days after Thanksgiving. And the turkey was also on the counter, rotting.
Oh,
And the place looked like Amityville Horror. There were so many flies in the house from the turkey, I guess.
And-
but it was
and the
just-
maggots get in so quick, do they not? In the people and
Brad,
the
I
turkey.
ran out just as fast as the other guys did.
But it's your responsibility as the medic to confirm that they're not viable anymore, right? So the
Yeah,
fire guys can leave,
That
but
was
you got to
kind
go
of
in.
Visual
Yeah.
confirmation, I think.
What are you doing?
Kenny, what do you think?
Well,
Smelliest place you've ever been? Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple. I mean, similar to what Randy said, like.
So work related, both of you?
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
Is it all? Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
It's inevitable, right?
I try and avoid smelly places in my regular life. As a general rule, you know. I mean, but no, there's one call I did recently where basically the apartment was used by the patient's 5 cats as a litter box,
Oh,
like the entire
Oh.
apartment. And so you walked in and like cat urine seeped up around your boots. So
Kenny.
that really was not good at all. And then and the cat shit everywhere, blah blah. And then another one, we actually played a game. We said it was with the people I was with. For $1 million, could you stay in this apartment as it is for a week? For $1 million, would you do it? And I mean, it's just, we're kind of twisted at times. You got to play these games, but when we got off the elevator, we knew what we were walking into, and the apartment was filled with flies, and the person had been deceased for some time. And I tried to get the dog out from underneath the bed, but the dog was staying right by its owner. But the maggots had eaten most of the face and the arm and all this stuff. And I think the dog had taken a couple chunks too. So that was pretty stinky and pretty ugly. I tried to get the dog out from underneath the bed, but it didn't work out. The dog might still be there.
that smell is unmistakable. Anyone who has not had to experience the smell of a deceased individual that's been more than a few hours into the days is fortunate, because it's so unique that once you smell it, you'll never mistake it. But that smell of cat urine, Kenny, is in my anyone that hasn't experienced that either, it's just such a blazing hot ammonia burn that gets in your eyes, your nose, and it chokes you out. And it's that's the first one we've had with cat urine, but I'm not surprised that we've finally heard that come up.
It honestly was unbelievable.
You guys are legendary. I'm going to bring Randy on the screen here because we need to get Bella a little shot here. And
I think she just disappeared. Come here.
Bella's gone. Bella's gone. But
come on. You gonna come up? Come on.
try and get Bella on the screen. And you've had your cat there, and everything. This has been such a touching moment in the podcast life with you guys. Here we go. All right, there she is. Hey, Bella. What a beauty. What a beauty.
Come say hello.
And
Grant's being a cat, so he's taking off.
yeah, just
He's
decided,
doing his own thing.
but he did interrupt the show.
He did,
So at least that part, still a cat. So guys, I'm going to, don't go anywhere. I'm going to sign you out, but just hang on tight here for a minute. I want to thank you. Thank you for joining, man. It's been really good to finally not only get you guys to sit down at the same time, but to pick your brain a little further than I probably even have working with you over the years and learning a little bit more about you. And I wanted to pay tribute to you as well for being a leader for so many of us, and you still are. And all the best, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Randy, keep getting better.
Thanks.
I hope to have you guys on again. Hope to have you on soon, because I'm simply a voice for everybody out there, and I think there's a lot to be told. We could go with any of these topics we talked about today. We could do our own show on just those topics.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I know the viewers, thank you guys for sharing your story. I had quite a bit of interest on the social media when Randy posted yesterday that he was coming on. There's a lot of staff out there that are like, really? We're going to get to hear about these guys? And they're willing to go
Be
on.
that good or bad, right?
So that's right.
It's
been excellent. It's been excellent. And I know your stories are unique, but they're not unique. We're the kind of the same across Canada, across the world, and our problems are everyone's problems. And I think that the more we get them voiced and out there, it's not only therapeutic for us, but maybe somehow, some way, maybe we'll even become essential or whatever one day, and we can say that even our voice spread a little message. So keep doing what you're doing, Randy. Keep getting better. We're cheering for you.
Thanks, Brad.
And take care of Bella there. I'm going to click you out, and thank you for joining. And Kenny, my twin, it's
yeah, I know it.
We've been on calls together, and it definitely fools the odd individuals, and it thinks if they're having a stroke, they don't know what's going on with these two bald heads. And it's even worse now in the masking world, where we're masked up all the time. And
well, we've got beautiful eyes, Brad, so it's hard to tell us apart, eh?
That's right. I do have all my own teeth. I have my own teeth, so I appreciate you starting that out at the beginning to differentiate.
I was just gonna say, actually, for those out there, that my wife used to be an emergency room nurse, and now she's up upstairs. But there was one time she saw Brad standing at the desk, and she almost grabbed his ass because she thought it was mine.
Yeah. And I didn't know if that was a compliment or that she didn't or did, or and I've shared that story many a times, and Shelly and I are quite good. We get along quite well, so it's part of our world. You can only laugh at it, right? If you're not laughing, you're crying. So
that's right.
Kenny, all the best. It's been a pleasure over the years, and I know aside from work, we've been pretty good friends. So thanks for joining, and we're going to have you on again soon. And stay safe, buddy, and good job with the technology today.
Oh my God, it was so fun. Right. You know what? The two things stress me out in this world. One is bagging my groceries with a line of people waiting to check their groceries out. Drives me nuts. Like, you drop dead in front of me, I'm happy to perform that call, but don't ask me to bag my groceries with people in line. Fuck. And then the other is technology and being on a podcast. So yeah. So
the next show, we're gonna have you bag your groceries in front of us on your phone, and we'll do both. My God. We'll do it together. We'll see how far you've come in the transition into modern society.
That would be great podcast material right there.
It would. So thanks again, Kenny. Thanks for everything you do, and we'll be in touch. Stay safe, bud. Okay. Well, we did another one. So glad to have those two guys on, Randy, Kenny. Thanks for sharing your stories. Pleasure. It's been a pleasure to work alongside you guys. It's been a pleasure to learn from you, and it's been a pleasure to laugh with you. On behalf of all your colleagues over the years and ones you are still working with, thanks for being who you are and what you do, and for spreading your knowledge, good or bad, in our direction. I just need to thank a couple sponsors before we go. Well, at least partnerships. I recognize I've got your back 911.com. They're a great resource for anybody out there that's suffering from any sort of mental troubles, stress. They do have a suicide prevention team, a line. They also have some great merchandise. They've got really cool swag. And all of their money go back into mental health and first responder mental health awareness and support. They have some trust funds. They deal with therapy dogs. They're just a great group, and I'm happy to be working with them right now. Also very happy to be part of the DeanBlundell.com network. They've been tremendous support. Dean's got a whole array of podcasts, including his own, on his network that I would highly recommend tuning in on. So thanks, Dean, and thanks to your crew for everything you've done. My socials are here on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as Offload Delay. Also Facebook to a lesser extent under my own name, under Brad Hopper. You can listen to this podcast, the audio version, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can tune in, watch on the YouTube channel. I encourage you to subscribe, set some alerts, let you know every time we've added a new one. And as well under DeanBlundell.com again. I thank Randy, thank Kenny. My contact information is right here. It's offload.delay14@gmail.com. If you do want to reach out, if you have any show ideas, if you have any comments on the shows, feel free. And you can also reach us at our socials. So thanks again. We did another show. We got a great show in, and look forward to doing another one. Until then, stay safe, everyone.